Commander Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of the space station Meridian, watching the red banner flutter in the artificial atmosphere. The crimson fabric bore the symbol of humanity, a clenched fist holding a broken chain. It was a symbol that struck fear into the hearts of alien empires across 3 star systems. Sarah had earned her title through blood and determination. At 32, she commanded the largest human fleet in known space, but her journey to this position had been anything but easy. Born on Earth during the Resource Wars, she had watched her home burn under alien occupation when she was just 16. The Zephyrian Empire had arrived 20 years ago with promises of peace and trade. Their ships were massive, their technology superior, and their intentions hidden behind diplomatic smiles. Within months, they had established protection zones on every human world. Within years, those zones became prison camps. Sarah's fingers traced the scar running from her left temple to her jaw, a reminder of her first escape attempt from Camp Delta 7 on Mars. She had been one of only 12 survivors out of 3,000 prisoners who tried to break free that day. The Zephyrians had made examples of the rest. But humans, Sarah had learned, were different from other species in ways that even the Zephyrians failed to understand. While other conquered races submitted or died quietly, humans adapted. They learned. They became stronger. A soft chime interrupted her thoughts. "Commander Chen to the bridge. Priority Alpha communication incoming." Sarah straightened her dark red uniform jacket and made her way through the corridors of Meridian Station. The station served as both a military command center and a symbol of human resistance. Built in secret over 5 years using salvaged alien technology and pure human engineering, it was invisible to most alien detection systems. The bridge buzzed with activity as Sarah entered. Her officers, all humans who had suffered under alien rule, worked at their stations with the focused intensity that had become their trademark. Unlike alien crews who relied heavily on automated systems, human crews thrived on direct control and split-second decision-making. "Report," Sarah commanded as she took her position at the center of the bridge. Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez, her communications officer, turned from his console. "We're receiving a transmission from Captain Williams aboard the Defiance. She's requesting immediate assistance at the Kepler mining colony." Sarah knew Captain Williams well. Maria Williams commanded one of their most advanced warships and wasn't the type to call for help unless the situation was desperate. "Put her through." The main screen flickered to life, showing Captain Williams's face streaked with dirt and sweat. Behind her, Sarah could see smoke and sparks flying from damaged systems. "Sarah, we've got a problem," Williams began without preamble. "The Zephyrians have developed some kind of new weapon. We were conducting a standard liberation operation at Kepler when they hit us with energy pulses that go right through our shields. We've lost 3 ships already, and I've got 1,500 civilian refugees who need immediate evacuation." Sarah felt her jaw clench. The Kepler mining colony housed nearly 10,000 human workers and their families, all forced to extract rare minerals for the Zephyrian war machine. Liberation operations were carefully planned missions designed to free human civilians and gather intelligence about alien technology. "What about their fleet composition?" Sarah asked. 2 heavy cruisers and 6 destroyers. But Sarah... Williams paused, her expression grim. "They're using human prisoners as shields. They've got transport ships full of our people positioned between us and their military vessels." The bridge fell silent. Every human officer present understood the horrible calculation the Zephyrians were forcing upon them. Attack the alien ships and risk killing innocent humans, or retreat and abandon the refugees at Kepler. Sarah closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of command. When she opened them again, her voice was steady and determined. "Maria, how long can you hold your position?" "Maybe 2 hours before they overrun us completely." "Understood. Begin immediate evacuation of the refugees. We're coming with everything we have. William's eyes widened. Sarah, you can't bring the entire fleet. This could be a trap to draw you out into the open. Perhaps, Sarah replied, but we don't abandon our people. Ever. That's what makes us human. After ending the communication, Sarah turned to her tactical officer, Commander James Park. James, how long to reach Kepler with our full battle group? Park's fingers flew over his console. 4 hours at maximum burn, but Commander, our fuel reserves will have to be enough, Sarah finished. Signal all ships. We're moving out in 15 minutes. Full battle formation and prep the Redemption for combat operations. The Redemption was Sarah's flagship, a massive dreadnought built from the wreckage of captured Zephyrian vessels and powered by 3 fusion reactors. It was the most powerful ship in the human fleet, armed with weapons that the aliens still couldn't fully understand or counter. As the fleet prepared to depart, Sarah made her way to the armory. She selected her personal combat gear, powered armor that had been modified with alien technology and painted deep red to match her banner. The armor bore the scars of dozens of battles, each mark a testament to human resilience. "Ma'am!" called out Sergeant First Class Elena Vasquez, head of Sarah's elite guard unit. "The men are ready. All 100 volunteers are suited up and standing by." Sarah nodded. Elena's unit was composed entirely of former prisoners who had escaped from various alien camps. They were the most dangerous human soldiers in existence, trained not just in combat, but in the art of liberation warfare. They specialized in operations that others considered impossible. "Today we face a new weapon," Sarah addressed the assembled soldiers. "The aliens think they've found a way to break us, to force us to choose between our military objectives and our people's lives. They still don't understand what they're dealing with." She pulled on her helmet, the red visor sliding into place. "We are not just soldiers. We are not just survivors. We are humanity's answer to every empire that thinks they can chain us, control us, or use us. Today, we show them why every alien species in this galaxy has learned to fear the sight of our red banner." The soldiers responded with a low, unified growl of agreement. They had all lost family, friends, or fellow humans to alien oppression. For them, this wasn't just a military operation, it was personal. As the fleet jumped into hyperspace, Sarah stood in the observation lounge of the Redemption, watching the stars stretch into lines of light. Her reflection in the reinforced glass showed a woman hardened by war but not broken by it. Her dark eyes held the fire that had made her a legend among both humans and aliens. She thought about the transmission she had received just hours before William's call. Intelligence sources had confirmed that the Zephyrian High Command was planning something called Final Solution Protocol, a systematic extermination of all human colonies that had shown signs of resistance. Kepler was apparently the testing ground for new weapons that would be used in this genocide. The irony wasn't lost on her. The aliens had chosen to test their ultimate weapon on the one species that had turned desperation into an art form. Humans had faced extinction events before, ice ages, plagues, wars that nearly destroyed their world. Each time, they had not just survived, but emerged stronger. "Commander," came Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice over the intercom. "We're receiving reports from our scout ships. Long-range sensors are picking up massive Zephyrian fleet movements throughout the sector. This isn't just about Kepler." Sarah wasn't surprised. The aliens had finally decided that humanity was too dangerous to keep alive, even as a slave species. They had realized, perhaps too late, that every human they oppressed only made the rest more determined to fight. She activated her personal communicator, sending a coded message to every human cell, ship, and hidden base in the sector. "Red Standard rising. Execute Protocol 7. The galaxy will know what we are." Protocol 7 was the contingency plan they had all hoped never to use. It was total war, Every human, whether soldier or civilian, would become a combatant. Every human ship would become a weapon. Every human settlement would become a fortress. As the Redemption and its escort fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system, Sarah could see the scope of the alien deployment. 3 full battle groups were positioned around the mining colony, with human transport ships trapped in the center like pieces on a chessboard. But Sarah smiled grimly as she watched her tactical display. The Zephyrians had made a critical error. They had positioned their ships in a formation designed to intimidate and control, not to fight against an enemy that had spent 20 years learning every weakness in their technology and tactics. "All ships," Sarah broadcast to her fleet. "Remember, we're not here to win a battle. We're here to send a message that will echo across every star system in this galaxy. Today, the aliens learn what happens when you threaten the extinction of humanity." The Kepler system erupted into chaos as Sarah's fleet engaged the Zephyrian blockade. The aliens had expected a desperate rescue attempt, but they hadn't anticipated the coordinated fury of humanity's most experienced warriors. Sarah watched from the bridge of the Redemption as her ships moved with deadly precision. Unlike alien fleets that relied on overwhelming firepower and rigid formations, human vessels darted and weaved through space like predators hunting in packs. Each captain had been given broad objectives, but complete tactical freedom, a command style that would have terrified most alien commanders but played perfectly to human strengths. "Incoming transmission from Admiral Zethkri aboard the Zephyrian flagship," announced Lieutenant Rodriguez. Sarah nodded. "Put him through. Let's hear what he has to say." The main screen filled with the reptilian features of Admiral Zethkri, one of the Zephyrian Empire's most decorated commanders. His golden scales were marked with the battle honors of a dozen conquered worlds, and his 3 eyes regarded Sarah with what might have been curiosity. "So you are the human who calls herself a queen," Zethkri spoke in accented but clear English. "I had expected someone larger." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "Size isn't everything, Admiral. I'm sure you've learned that by now." Zethkri's neck frills fluttered, a sign of agitation among his species. "Your fleet is impressive for a species of primitives, but you cannot win here. We hold 15,000 of your people hostage. Surrender now, and I will ensure they are relocated to comfortable facilities." "Comfortable facilities?" Sarah repeated, her voice dripping with contempt. "Like the ones on Mars? Or perhaps you mean the labor camps on Titan where humans work until they drop dead from exhaustion?" The alien admiral's eyes narrowed. "Your species' tendency toward dramatics is noted in our files. You will surrender or watch your people die." "No," Sarah said simply. "We'll do what humans always do when faced with impossible odds. We'll find a third option." She cut the transmission and turned to her tactical officer. "Commander Park, status on the evacuation ships?" "Captain Williams has managed to extract 600 refugees, but the Zephyrians are tightening their formation. They're trying to force us into direct confrontation with the hostage ships." Sarah studied the tactical display. The alien formation was clever, a layered defense with human transports in the center, surrounded by destroyers, with the heavy cruisers positioned to deliver maximum firepower against any rescue attempt. It was a trap designed to exploit human attachment to their civilians. But Sarah had spent 20 years studying alien psychology, and she knew something the Zephyrians didn't understand about their own formation. Aliens thought in terms of hierarchy and rigid structure. They couldn't imagine a battle plan that intentionally sacrificed tactical advantage for psychological effect. "Signal the Ghost Squadron," Sarah commanded. Ghost Squadron was her most specialized unit. 12 small ships crewed by former prisoners who had become experts at infiltration and sabotage. Their vessels were built from salvaged alien technology and designed to be nearly invisible to standard detection systems. Captain Lisa Morgan's face appeared on a secondary screen. Like all Ghost Squadron commanders, Morgan had been imprisoned by the Zephyrians for 3 years before her escape. The experience had changed her, turning a former civilian engineer into one of humanity's most dangerous ship commanders. "Ready for your orders, Commander Chen," Morgan said, her voice carrying the cold focus that characterized all Ghost Squadron personnel. "Lisa, I need you to do something that's going to sound insane, even by our standards," Sarah began. "I want you to take your ships directly through the hostage formation and dock with the Zephyrian transport vessels." Morgan didn't even blink. "How many prisoners are we talking about?" "Intelligence suggests 3,000 to 4,000 humans aboard 5 transport ships. All heavily guarded, all rigged with explosive charges if we try a standard rescue." "Understood. We'll need a distraction." Sarah nodded. "You'll have one. Signal all ships. Execute Formation Omega." Formation Omega was a maneuver that no alien military academy taught because it violated every principle of sensible fleet tactics. It involved deliberate separation of forces, exposure of command vessels, and apparent tactical confusion. To alien observers, it would look like the human fleet was falling apart under pressure. But humans had learned to use alien expectations against them. While the Zephyrians repositioned to take advantage of the apparent human disarray, Ghost Squadron moved into position. The battle began in earnest as Sarah's heavy cruiser Retribution opened fire on the outer ring of alien destroyers. The ship's weapons, a combination of human innovation and captured alien technology, punched through Zephyrian shields with devastating effect. What the aliens didn't know was that humans had spent 2 decades reverse engineering every piece of Zephyrian equipment they could capture. More importantly, they had learned to think like their enemies, to anticipate alien tactics and exploit their weaknesses. "Ma'am," called out Tactical Officer Park, "the aliens are moving to engage our scattered formation. They're taking the bait." Sarah watched as Zephyrian heavy cruisers moved forward to capitalize on what they perceived as human tactical incompetence. It was exactly what she had hoped for. "Now, Lisa," Sarah whispered into her communicator. Ghost Squadron struck like lightning. Their ships, no larger than fighters, slipped through the alien formation using a combination of stealth technology and sheer audacity. Before the Zephyrians realized what was happening, Morgan's ships had attached themselves to the human transport vessels. What followed was 30 minutes of the most intense boarding action in human military history. Ghost Squadron Marines, wearing captured alien equipment and carrying weapons designed specifically for ship-to-ship combat, fought their way through heavily defended transport ships. But these weren't ordinary Marines. Every member of Ghost Squadron had survived alien imprisonment, torture, and forced labor. They knew exactly how the Zephyrians fought, exactly where their weaknesses lay, and exactly how much punishment they could absorb before falling. The aliens had made a critical error in their psychological assessment of humanity. They assumed that former prisoners would be broken, traumatized, and ineffective as soldiers. Instead, they had created the most motivated and ruthless fighting force in the galaxy. "Ghost Leader to command," came Morgan's voice over the comm, strained but triumphant. "We have control of Transport Alpha through Delta, beginning emergency evacuation of all human prisoners." Sarah felt a surge of pride mixed with concern. "Casualties, Lisa." "Acceptable losses. The Zephyrians weren't expecting us to know their ship layouts better than they do." That was the key advantage humans had developed over 20 years of resistance. Every piece of alien technology, every ship design, every tactical doctrine had been studied, analyzed, and countered by human prisoners who had nothing to do but observe and plan. But even as the evacuation proceeded, Sarah knew the real battle was just beginning. The Zephyrian admiral had activated his new weapon system. and energy readings from the alien ships were climbing to dangerous levels. "All ships, emergency maneuvers," Sarah broadcast. "Unknown energy signature building on all Zephyrian vessels." The alien weapon fired simultaneously from 12 ships, creating a web of energy that engulfed the space around the human fleet. Sarah felt the redemption shudder as the energy pulses struck their shields, but instead of the devastating damage she had expected, her ship's systems remained functional. "Damage report," she called out. "Minimal damage to outer hull, but ma'am." Park's voice carried confusion. "The energy signature is unlike anything we've seen. It's not designed to destroy ships." Sarah's mind raced as she analyzed the tactical display. If the weapon wasn't meant to destroy vessels, then what was its purpose? The answer came to her with sudden, horrifying clarity. "Medical emergency on all decks," came the voice of Chief Medical Officer Dr. Elizabeth Santos over the intercom. "All human personnel are showing signs of severe neurological disruption. The alien weapon appears to be affecting human brain chemistry directly." Sarah felt it then, a creeping lethargy, a dulling of her thoughts and reflexes. Around the bridge, she could see her officers struggling against the same effect. The Zephyrian weapon wasn't designed to destroy human ships. It was designed to destroy human effectiveness. The aliens had finally found a way to neutralize humanity's greatest advantage: their ability to think quickly, adapt rapidly, and coordinate instinctively under pressure. The weapon was turning humans into the same kind of slow, methodical thinkers that characterized most alien species. But as Sarah fought against the mental fog, she realized that the aliens had made another critical error. They assumed that human effectiveness came from superior technology or training. They didn't understand that humanity's real strength lay in something far more fundamental. "All ships," Sarah broadcast, her voice slurred but determined. "Medical emergency protocol. Dr. Santos, how long do we have before complete cognitive suppression?" "At current exposure levels, perhaps 15 minutes before we become completely ineffective as a fighting force." Sarah smiled grimly. 15 minutes was more than enough time for humans to do what they did best: turn a hopeless situation into a victory through sheer determination and creative thinking. "Ghost Squadron, Emergency Protocol 7 Alpha," she commanded. "All Marine units prepare for direct assault on alien command vessels. We're going to board their ships and take this fight to close quarters." It was a desperate plan that violated every principle of space combat. But Sarah knew something the aliens didn't. Humans had evolved as persistence hunters. When faced with prey that was faster, stronger, or better armed, humans had learned to simply outlast them through pure determination. The Zephyrians had created a weapon that slowed human thinking to alien levels, but they had forgotten that humans had fought and won wars for thousands of years before developing advanced technology. Strip away their technological advantages, and humans still possessed the one thing that no alien species had ever truly understood: the refusal to accept defeat. As boarding pods launched from human ships toward Zephyrian vessels, Sarah felt her consciousness beginning to blur. But even as the alien weapon dulled her thoughts, she held on to one clear understanding. This battle would be won not by superior firepower or advanced tactics, but by the simple human ability to keep fighting long after any rational species would have surrendered. The red standard of humanity flew against the alien fleet, and across the comm channels came the sound Sarah had been waiting for: the war cries of human Marines boarding enemy ships, ready to take the fight directly to their oppressors regardless of the odds against them. The red banner of the human fleet flew against the backdrop of alien warships, and for the first time in 20 years, it was the aliens who felt fear. The corridors of the Zephyrian flagship echoed with sounds of desperate combat as human Marines fought their way through heavily defended sections. Despite the neural suppression weapon affecting their cognitive abilities, the Marines pressed forward with a determination that baffled their alien opponents. Sarah Chen, her thoughts moving sluggishly through the artificial mental fog, found herself in direct command of the boarding operation aboard Admiral Zethkree's vessel. Her elite guard had carved a path through 3 decks of the alien ship, leaving behind a trail of disabled defense systems and unconscious Zephyrian crew members. "Commander," gasped Sergeant Vasquez, her breathing labored from the extended firefight. "We've located the source of the neural weapon. It's integrated into their main power grid." Sarah nodded slowly, her enhanced reflexes operating at perhaps 30% of normal efficiency. But even diminished, human tactical thinking remained superior to standard alien capabilities. "Options for disabling it?" "2 choices," replied technical specialist Rodriguez, who had accompanied the boarding party specifically to analyze alien technology. "We can overload their main reactor and take out the weapon along with the ship, or we can attempt to reprogram the weapon's targeting systems." Sarah felt a smile forming despite the mental haze. Rodriguez had identified exactly what she had hoped for. The alien weapon's greatest weakness was also its greatest opportunity. "How long to reprogram the targeting system?" "Maybe 10 minutes if I can access their command codes." 10 minutes was an eternity in ship-to-ship combat, but Sarah had planned for this moment. While her boarding parties engaged the aliens in close-quarters combat, the rest of her fleet had been executing a carefully orchestrated deception. "All ships," Sarah broadcast through her helmet communicator, "implement Protocol Lazarus. Begin Phase 2 operations immediately." Protocol Lazarus was named after the human concept of resurrection from apparent death. To alien observers, the human fleet appeared to be succumbing to the neural suppression weapon, with ships drifting aimlessly and crew responses becoming increasingly sluggish. But appearances could be deceiving, especially when humans were involved. Captain Williams, aboard the Defiance, received Sarah's signal and smiled grimly. The neural weapon had indeed affected human cognitive abilities, but Williams had been preparing for this moment since the beginning of the battle. Her ship's crew had been rotating through specialized breathing apparatus that filtered out the most severe effects of the alien weapon. More importantly, the humans had spent the last hour allowing the Zephyrians to believe their victory was assured. While alien attention focused on the apparently disabled human fleet, Ghost Squadron had been systematically infiltrating every Zephyrian vessel in the system. "Ma'am," called out Lieutenant Torres from the Defiance's engineering station, "all Ghost Squadron teams report successful placement of charges on enemy reactor systems. Awaiting your command for synchronized detonation." Williams checked her chronometer. Sarah's boarding party had exactly 8 minutes remaining before the coordinated strike would commence. 8 minutes for them to reprogram the most sophisticated weapon the Zephyrian Empire had ever deployed. Meanwhile, aboard the alien flagship, Sarah's team had fought their way to the Central Command section. The Zephyrian crew, confident in their technological superiority, had never imagined that humans would be capable of boarding operations while under the influence of neural suppression. They had underestimated the one trait that defined humanity above all others: the ability to function effectively even when operating far below optimal capacity. Humans had evolved to persist through injury, illness, exhaustion, and trauma. A weapon that reduced their cognitive abilities to alien normal levels was simply another obstacle to overcome. Admiral Zethkree himself stood in the command center, his 3 eyes wide with disbelief as human Marines secured his bridge. "Impossible," he hissed in his native language. "The neural suppression should have rendered you incapable of complex thought." Sarah stepped forward, her red armor scarred from the boarding action, but her presence commanding despite her slowed movements. "That's your problem, Admiral. You never understood what makes us human." Zethkree's neck frills flared in agitation. "Your species is inferior in every measurable way. Smaller, weaker, shorter-lived, less intelligent. And yet," Sarah interrupted, "here we are aboard your flagship, about to turn your ultimate weapon against your entire fleet. She nodded to Rodriguez, who had successfully accessed the alien weapon control systems. You assume that intelligence and strength determine the outcome of conflicts, Sarah continued, her voice gaining clarity as adrenaline helped her fight through the mental fog. But humans learned long ago that survival isn't about being the strongest or the smartest. It's about being the most adaptable. Rodriguez looked up from his workstation. Neural targeting system has been reprogrammed, Commander. Instead of human brain chemistry, it's now calibrated for Zephyrian neurological patterns. Sarah felt a surge of savage satisfaction. The aliens had created a weapon specifically designed to neutralize human effectiveness. Now that same weapon would be turned against its creators, and the Zephyrians had no defenses against their own technology. You cannot do this, Zethkri protested, his voice carrying the first notes of fear. The neural suppression weapon affects all carbon-based life forms. You will destroy yourselves as well. Not quite, Sarah replied. You see, Admiral, your scientists made an assumption about human psychology. They assumed we think the same way you do, that we prioritize individual survival over group objectives. She activated her communicator. All human personnel, implement neural shielding protocol immediately. Ghost Squadron, you are cleared for final phase operations. Across the Kepler system, human crew members throughout the fleet activated emergency neural shielding, a combination of medical countermeasures and technological defenses that had been developed specifically for this moment. The shielding wouldn't completely protect them from the redirected weapon, but it would reduce the effects to manageable levels. The Zephyrians, however, had no such protections. Rodriguez, activate the modified targeting system, Sarah commanded. The effect was immediate and devastating. The neural suppression weapon, now recalibrated for Zephyrian brain chemistry, struck every alien vessel in the system simultaneously. Across 12 ships, Zephyrian crew members collapsed as their nervous systems were overwhelmed by energy patterns specifically designed to disrupt their cognitive abilities. But Sarah's plan went beyond simply neutralizing the immediate threat. As Zephyrian crews struggled with neural suppression, Ghost Squadron detonated the charges they had placed on alien reactor systems. The coordinated explosions didn't destroy the ships entirely. That wasn't the objective. Instead, they disabled primary systems and forced the vessels into emergency protocols. "Ma'am," came Captain Williams's voice over the communication system, "all Zephyrian vessels are dead in space. Their crews appear to be experiencing severe neurological disruption. Shall we begin boarding operations?" Sarah looked at Admiral Zethkri, who had collapsed into his command chair as the neural weapon affected his own ship. His three eyes struggled to focus, and his movements had become sluggish and uncoordinated. "Negative, Maria," Sarah replied. "Begin Phase 3. It's time to send a message." Phase 3 was the most ambitious part of Sarah's plan. Rather than simply capturing or destroying the Zephyrian fleet, she intended to convert it into a weapon of psychological warfare that would strike at the heart of alien confidence throughout the galaxy. Over the next 6 hours, human technical teams swarmed through the disabled Zephyrian vessels. They downloaded complete intelligence databases, captured examples of every advanced technology, and most importantly, recorded detailed documentation of alien war crimes against human prisoners. But the most significant action was the modification of the ship's communication systems. Every Zephyrian vessel was equipped with quantum communication arrays capable of reaching any point in the galaxy instantaneously. Sarah intended to use those arrays to broadcast a message that would change the balance of power between humans and aliens forever. "Admiral," Sarah addressed the still groggy Zethkri, "you're going to help me send a message to the Zephyrian High Command." Zethkri struggled to form words through his neural impairment. "I will not betray my empire. You won't have to." Sarah replied. "You're going to tell them exactly what happened here, every detail. How a small human fleet defeated 3 of your battle groups. How we turned your ultimate weapon against you. How we captured your ships, your technology, and your personnel without destroying a single vessel." She leaned closer to the alien commander. "And then you're going to explain to them what this means for any future attempts to exterminate humanity." The broadcast that went out from the Kepler system reached every major alien civilization in the galaxy within hours. It contained complete tactical recordings of the battle, documentation of Zephyrian war crimes, and a simple message from the human resistance. To all alien empires, humanity has spent 20 years learning from our defeat. We have studied your technology, analyzed your tactics, and understood your psychology. We have become stronger through adversity, more unified through oppression, and more dangerous through desperation. The Zephyrian Empire attempted to exterminate our species using a weapon designed to neutralize human effectiveness. That weapon now serves human interests, as will any future attempts to destroy us. This is not a declaration of war. War was declared upon us 20 years ago, when you invaded our worlds and enslaved our people. This is a declaration of our refusal to be victims. We are humanity. We do not surrender. We do not submit. We adapt, we overcome, and we prevail. Any empire that believes it can chain us, control us, or destroy us is welcome to try. The galaxy now knows what happens to those who attempt it. The message was signed with the symbol of the red standard, a clenched fist holding a broken chain. In the aftermath of the Kepler victory, Sarah stood once again at the observation deck of Meridian Station. But now the view was different. Instead of a single red banner, dozens of captured Zephyrian vessels flew human colors. Each ship had been modified with human technology and crewed by former prisoners who had volunteered to serve in humanity's growing fleet. The liberation of Kepler had freed over 15,000 human civilians, but more importantly, it had demonstrated that humanity was no longer a species struggling for survival. They had become a force capable of turning alien technology against its creators, of winning victories against impossible odds, and of inspiring other oppressed species to resist their own alien overlords. Reports were already coming in from across the galaxy. Human resistance cells that had been operating in secret for decades were emerging into open rebellion. More significantly, other enslaved species were beginning their own liberation movements, inspired by humanity's example. Sarah received a communication from Dr. Santos, who had been analyzing the captured neural suppression technology. "Commander, we've made a breakthrough. The weapon can be modified to affect any species-specific neurological pattern. We could potentially neutralize any alien military force without causing permanent damage." Sarah nodded, but her expression remained thoughtful. "Doctor, I want you to develop countermeasures for the weapon instead. Make sure every human ship is protected against neural suppression technology." "Ma'am, wouldn't it be more effective to use the weapon against other alien fleets?" Sarah turned back to the viewport where the red banners of humanity's fleet moved among the stars. "Dr. Santos, we didn't fight this war to become like them. We fought to remain human. The moment we start using weapons of mass suppression against civilian populations, we become no better than the empires that enslaved us." She paused, watching as a refugee transport ship docked with the station, bringing more liberated humans home. "Our strength isn't in superior weapons or ruthless tactics. It's in our refusal to give up hope, our commitment to protecting the innocent, and our determination to fight for freedom rather than conquest." As if to emphasize her point, Sarah's communication system chimed with an incoming message. The transmission originated from the Centauri colonies, where human populations had been staging increasingly successful resistance operations. "Commander Chen," came the voice of Colonel Rebecca Martinez, "we've received confirmation from our intelligence networks. The Zephyrian High Command has issued a formal ceasefire order. They're requesting negotiations for the establishment of human autonomous zones. Sarah smiled for the first time in weeks. Autonomous zones were just the beginning. The aliens had finally learned that attempting to control humanity was more costly than coexisting with them. But more importantly, the victory at Kepler had established something that would resonate throughout the galaxy for generations to come. When faced with extinction, humans had not simply fought back. They had redefined the rules of engagement entirely. The red standard continued to fly among the stars, no longer just a symbol of resistance, but a promise to every oppressed being in the galaxy that freedom was worth fighting for, and that those who stood against tyranny would never stand alone.